Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
As we get closer to the start of the fall semester, Elmira College is now asking students to get vaccinated. Students who choose not to may be kicked off campus. Big Fox's Matt Kleindienst joins us from Corning with the details.
Good evening, Ann. In the wake of COVID cases increasing, Elmira College is sending a message to students before the start of the fall semester. Either get vaccinated or go home. As Elmira students prepare to return to campus, they will need to get the COVID vaccine. On Thursday, Elmira College laid out details for their updated COVID reopening policy. According to the school, students will either have to submit their vaccination records or provide a negative COVID test within 5 days of returning to campus. Students who aren't vaccinated by the start of the semester will have until October 8th to get the shots. Students who don't get vaccinated by then will be sent home by the college. A portion of tuition, housing, and meal plan money will also be forfeited if a student isn't fully vaccinated. Elmira College is instituting other policies such as banning off-campus visitors in dorms, regular COVID testing, and other quarantine protocols. The fall semester kicks off on August 30th. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
New York issued new guidance for school districts across the state as they prepare for in-person learning amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And as Lizette Nunez reports, local Catholic schools also unveiled their guidelines, which call for masking up indoors.
With the new school year just around the corner, the New York State Education Department recommending students and staff wear masks indoors, regardless of vaccination status. And students keep 3 feet of distance from each other. Dr. Sarah Siddiqui, a pediatrician at NYU Langone, says a layered mitigation strategy is necessary.
Make sure hand hygiene is discussed, make sure to stay home when you're sick. So these are all important factors that are going to help us to open schools as safely as possible for everyone involved.
Schools that are offering full in-person learning will not be required to offer remote learning. New York City schools taking the same approach.
We're not going to remote as we had it previously. I've made that very clear. Everyone's coming back to school.
Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer disagrees. She says remote learning should be an option since children 12 and under are not yet eligible to be vaccinated.
There are parents who are concerned about returning in September.
Dr. Siddiqui says in-person learning is much more beneficial for students.
What we did learn from last year is remote learning or not being in school is difficult for students, and that there was a lot of loss in learning.
The Archdiocese of New York also releasing its guidance for the new school year. Masks will be required and students will be grouped into pods. School will be full-time with no remote option. The Diocese of Brooklyn announcing it will follow strict COVID-19 protocols and vaccinations will be encouraged for those who are eligible.
Despite lifting visitor restrictions, Guthrie is expanding its telemedicine services throughout its health network. Patients will now have virtual access to 400 healthcare providers in more than 50 specialties through Guthrie. Guthrie doctors say that expanding virtual services will bring more convenience to patients in need of care.
I think going forward, people really are going to demand it. They're not going to say, I'm going to wait outside for 40 minutes to see the physician. They said, whenever the physician is ready, ping me, and we can see the patient.
During the pandemic, Guthrie went from having 30 telemedicine visits per week to more than 3,000 per week. The first FDA-approved booster shots are now going into arms, but the CD says it will only be Pfizer and Moderna for now. Jonathan Seri has more from Atlanta.
Americans are rolling up their sleeves for the first FDA-approved COVID vaccine boosters. An organ transplant recipient at Johns Hopkins Medicine getting the first shot after the FDA cleared Pfizer and Moderna vaccines for a third dose for those with cancer, organ transplants, or other conditions that weaken their immune systems. And on Friday, the CDC weighed in, saying the new authorization will not include Johnson & Johnson's vaccine because of a lack of sufficient data.
Let's just hope that we get good results, because other people are going to need antibodies in their systems too.
The authorization comes as the new COVID surge is accelerating quickly. We're now averaging more than 114,000 cases every day in the U.S., up 18% from last week. The CDC now warning community transmission is increasing significantly in areas with low vaccination rates, and it's hitting children the hardest.
We know that most of the infections that is coming into schools is coming from high rates of disease in the community.
But there are at least 7 states restricting mask mandates in schools, including Florida, which accounts for nearly 1 out of every 5 new infections in the U.S. Governor Ron DeSantis sticking to his guns, refusing any new mitigation efforts.
We were promised that they would end the pandemic, lockdown, school closures, mandates, and it just hasn't done that.
The number of new vaccinations is also ticking up slightly. The U.S. is now averaging more than 500,000 doses every day, the highest number since June. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
The buzz on Long Island is about a bizarre rash of thefts. Someone is stealing bees. The perpetrator so far has hit a commercial farm, a religious group, and a nonprofit. And the person behind this knows exactly what they're doing. Carolyn Gussoff has the story.
At the 1760 Homestead Farm, a stinging theft. Someone in late July stole more than 1,000 bees.
They took the frames, the queen, the mated queen, as well as all the remaining colony.
Farmer Larry Kaiser says the thief swapped out his bees with replacement bees, taking a special queen bee that's part of a breeding project to develop honeybees that survive Long Island winters. Then they scrawled this bizarre clue, a video game character's name.
Which it translates to the Lord of Death and Destruction. So we were not sure if this was a sabotage. We don't know the lineage of the bees that were replaced. We don't know if they were infected with a mite or a disease.
Adding to the mystery, Kaiser learned the bee bandit has struck at least twice before. Days earlier at the Sisters of St. Joseph's property in Hampton Bays, where the Ecological Culture Initiative has a pollinator garden. Half of their beehive was stolen, filled with Long Island survivor bee stock.
Extremely disheartened. Bees are an important part of our ecosystem. The person knew exactly what they were doing and the value of what they were doing.
The pollinator garden grows vegetables for a food pantry.
So we are giving and they're stealing, and that's just a bad karma.
I'm very upset.
Kaiser says he's devastated. Someone stole from a small farm that relies on bees to pollinate.
They wanted their own Long Island survivor stock without having to do the work behind it.
Some hard work by a group of high school students in Buffalo is changing the life of a young boy. Lilia Wood has the story.
When Josiah was born, we weren't really aware or prepared for what was coming.
Josiah Reed Clark was born with one hand.
Something that we had to educate ourselves as Josiah progressing and grew.
Josiah is now a soon-to-be second grader, and his dad tells me he does what typical 7-year-olds do.
He's a normal kid to me, He does everything, plays soccer, plays basketball, plays skateboards, rollerblades, rides his dirt bike.
He learned to do everything with one hand.
He's shown us that he does everything. He plays video games with his nub.
But what if he could have a second hand? That's exactly what local high schoolers are creating.
It was exciting, he's been talking about it this whole week.
And then be able to see him now and bring what his ideas to life, like the colors he wanted and everything, it's really impactful.
These teenagers are building adaptive devices for children through the AT&T Hand in Hand program, sponsored by WNY STEM Hub.
Students are the ones who make adjustments. In this case, we made a specialized hand for him to use on his dirt bike.
The free summer program helps teach a diverse group of students about digital literacy and the impact technology can have on the community.
Because I want to be a mechanical engineer. So this helps me with learn the mechanics of everything, use 3D printers.
This was fitting day. The students still have to make the final touches on Josiah's new arm.
So you're going to get this arm soon. What's the first thing you're going to do?
Ride my bike with it.
Josiah tells me he wants to be just like these students when he grows up.
It's definitely life-changing. It's crazy to see.
It makes me happy. Thank you.
San Francisco is now requiring proof of full vaccination for people 12 and older for certain indoor events. It is the first major American city to issue such a requirement. Earlier this month, New York City implemented a similar mandate, but it allowed for partial vaccination. The new mandate goes into effect on August 20th and applies to indoor restaurants, bars, gyms, and theaters, as well as large event spaces. Businesses will have to require proof of vaccination from patrons. Employees are also required to be fully vaccinated. The Taliban now controls half of Afghanistan's provincial capitals. 4 more cities fell to Taliban rules on Thursday night and Friday, and several more are surrounded or under siege. The second biggest city, Kandahar, has fallen to Taliban fighters this morning, and they claim to control the governor's office and police headquarters. The analysis is based on Taliban claims, confirmation by government and provincial officials, and visual evidence from the cities that have taken over. The Chicago White Sox and New York Yankees played the first official Major League Baseball game in Iowa Thursday night on a specially built field next to the original Field of Dreams movie site. It was tough to score a ticket to the big game, but ahead of the first pitch, the MLB delivered tickets to some pretty special people. Thursday, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred visited a cancer center where he surprised 2 families with tickets. Christy Foxen, an Iowa mom to a young baseball player, is currently receiving radiation for breast cancer. And Joel Schwambo, a Wisconsin high school track coach, is battling gastric cancer. They received medical clearance to go to the exclusive experience, and they were among the crowd at the highly anticipated game. And what a game it turned out to be, with 8 home runs, 2 by the Yankees in the top of the 9th to take the lead, and a game winner for the Sox by Tim Anderson in the bottom of the 9th. The White Sox win it 9-8. Coming up next, meteorologist Adam Bowles has your forecast for the weekend. Stay with us.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Hey guys, it's Adam Bowles with your weather, brought to you in part by William Mattar. Kim has a night off for this evening, but here's what I have for the forecast headlines for today. Not as warm, very nice feeling outside for this weekend. Not as warm, lower humidity in store, below average temperatures in store. Maybe some 70s, feeling fantastic. But I am tracking rain chances next week, but I'll get to that in just a second. But here's the high temperatures for today. It's hot, but cooler air is on the way as we head into tomorrow. Starting off in the 90s and 80s for today, and then it gets much better. All right, rain chances are off to the south and east of us. Humid air right here, a cold front bringing in that rain chance, but behind the rain chances and that green, cooler, less humid air, feeling fantastic, and also more sunshine in store as we head into this weekend. So let's time it out with future radar for tonight. Isolated showers and thunderstorms possible for tonight, even early morning hours for Saturday morning. But look at that, the cold front is pushing the moisture this way, and that means drier conditions by Saturday afternoon. Feeling very nice. Get outside and have fun. Have a barbecue too. 70s, picture perfect weather for Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. Also for your Sunday, I'm not barely seeing any rain chances as we head to at least Monday, looking pretty nice and feeling pretty good as well. And then rain chances finally come back as we head into the mid part of next week. So for a recap, here's the forecast. Lows for tonight back into the 60s and 70s. Humid, maybe a strong isolated thunderstorm possible for tonight. And then as we head into tomorrow, it's going to be very nice indeed. Wake up weather, rain chances, then more sunshine heading into the 60s. Here's a 7-day for this weekend, starting this weekend. Look at that, 70s, more sunshine, partly sunny, not as warm. Pleasant and nice this weekend. I cannot wait. Hitting 80 degrees, looking pretty good on your Monday with lows in the 50s, maybe a little bit chilly for the morning hours. Partly sunny and pleasant for your Monday. Rain chances are increasing once again as we head to the mid part of next week, heading to the 80s, and then more sunshine after that by Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with more 80s with a slight warm up as we head into the end part of next week.
According to a top U.S. health official, there's no clear evidence that the Delta variant is causing more severe disease in children. But Dr. Anthony Fauci says it's putting more kids in the hospital through, quote, sheer infection numbers. So what activities should your family avoid to lower the risk of your young child contracting COVID-19? Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
The Delta variant continues to quickly spread across the U.S., but right now the youngest Americans can't get the best protection there is, a vaccine.
The only thing we know for sure is that more infections mean more children will be in the hospital.
For those under 12 not yet eligible for vaccination, top U.S. health officials continue to say masking and physical distancing are key. What you do beyond that depends on your child's risk factors.
I would probably not have any of my kids who are still too young to be vaccinated go to one of those big sleepovers where you have multiple, 5, 6 kids.
But Dr. Perry Wilson with the Yale School of Medicine says a one-on-one slumber party may be more manageable, just mixing 2 households. And the biggest COVID risk for kids under 12 who aren't vaccinated, the same as it is for unvaccinated adults.
Those are indoor, crowded activities where people aren't wearing masks.
Wilson says outdoor activities are relatively safe, but
if you're packing indoors because you want that air conditioning, or when the weather gets colder, if you're packing indoors to get the heat, that's when the risk of transmission is going to be high.
And if you feel any COVID-19 symptoms, regardless of vaccination status, Wilson says to get tested.
Especially if you're living with unvaccinated people, because you'll be fine, but you might be putting them at risk.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
More and more Americans are jumping on the solar power bandwagon as part of America's clean energy plan. And the powers that be have launched an effort to make it easier, more efficient, and faster than ever before. Jeremy Roth reports.
Solar power is heating up in America. More businesses and homeowners than ever before are investing in solar panel systems. Almost half of new electrical capacity in 2020 came from solar, and the Solar Energy Industries Association says the U.S. is expected to deploy 3 times as much solar capacity over the next decade as was installed by the end of the last. Homeowners like Mitch Kappa of Atlanta are leading the charge as early adopters.
For sure, like checking, my power bill now versus before the solar panels were activated, you can see a clear difference. Honestly, the biggest motivation is probably just more of an environmental aspect, just to do something to put my little drop in the bucket as far as what we can do.
An obvious challenge for homeowners is the upfront system costs, but the real hurdle has been clearing the red tape. Since every state and local jurisdiction has its own requirements, investing in solar has included lots of paperwork and lots of waiting. Until now. The U.S. Department of Energy has debuted an online tool called Solar App. It's designed to streamline applications, standardize requirements, and in some cases provide instant permit approvals for installations. It's a key part in aiding the Biden administration's long-term climate change goals.
The costs of delay are simply too high, and the economics tell us that there's simply no reason to wait because solar power just makes sense.
I'm Jeremy Roth, reporting.
A 6-year-old Milwaukee boy is a man with a mission by trying to help his family out in one of the most imaginative ways possible. Starting with just a paperclip, Jackson Promo is trying to trade his way up to a new home. And as James Graw reports, he's already off to a very good start.
Mom, can you help me get this out? I don't want to break it.
This corner is full of very valuable items for 6-year-old Jackson Promo.
We traded a license plate for the iPod.
Everything has one purpose.
I'm trading over this stuff for a house.
This 6-year-old from Milwaukee is starting with a paperclip and trying to trade all the way up to get his family a new home.
If I do that, then Mom's gonna buy me a new iPad.
That's a pretty good deal. His mom told him about a story of someone doing it successfully in 2005, and so Jackson decided it would be a good way to get his family a new home.
Yeah, I do.
In just 3 days, he already traded up to these 2 lawnmowers.
Yeah, it feels kind of comfy.
His mom, Heather, is pretty proud.
It shows me how caring of a boy he is, and I know that he's going to grow up to be a great man, and that's the most any parent could hope for.
Plus, the community has chipped in to donate other items. Things that make Mom a little worried.
You didn't shop it to people.
Anything not traded will be donated. But for how fast of a start Jackson has had, he thinks it will take a little while longer to trade up for the house.
30 years?
But if you want to help him reach his goal a little faster, search Jax's Trading Extravaganza on Facebook.
Hey guys, do you want to suede with me?
Adidas says it reached a deal to sell off Reebok on Thursday. Adidas paid $3.8 billion for Reebok back in 2006 in an attempt to take on Nike directly. Back then, Reebok had deals with both the NBA and the NFL, but fortunes have changed. Now Adidas is selling Reebok for $2.5 billion, a significant loss to Authentic Brands Group. Authentic Brands, which owns Forever 21 and Brooks Brothers, is hoping for a major turnaround. You're probably not going to believe this is real, but fasten your seatbelts. Jay Leno surprised friends by popping up outside of the cockpit of a plane in flight. Jeannie Mose explains how he did it.
Flying over the ocean off the coast of California. Is it a bird? Is it a white fluffy cloud? No, it's Jay Leno. The former host of The Tonight Show appeared to be hanging out midair and pretended to climb towards the cockpit. Fake, you say?
It's not a fake, it's real.
Leno says the plane at Grumman Albatross was flying 147 miles per hour when he ventured outside to get a laugh from his buddies. Leno told the host of Spike's Car Radio podcast that he was
just being stupid.
Move over, Tom Cruise, clinging to an Airbus. Cruise himself, not a stuntman. Open the door! In Mission Impossible, for Leno, it was Mission Impossible not to ham it up, trying to crack up his buddies by surprising them using a sort of secret hatch.
The nose opens from the inside, so yes. I climbed out on here.
One of the pilots demonstrated the hatch up by the nose cone. You don't need to be tethered in. They say it's safer than it looks. From the cockpit, you end up resembling...
with Jay Leno, like an ornament on the front of the plane.
One Instagram poster asked, wasn't this a Twilight Zone episode? When William Shatner, flying through a storm, spotted a creature out on the wing. There were no flight attendants to call when Jay Leno popped up.
There's a man out there.
What?
Look, he's crawling on...
Leno may be in the twilight of his career, but he still knows how to land a practical joke. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. Art lovers, get your checkbooks ready. A collection of artwork worth millions of dollars is hanging up in plain sight, not in a museum, but in a Las Vegas restaurant. MGM Resorts and Sotheby's have teamed up to auction off 11 pieces of art done by Pablo Picasso. The collection, estimated to be worth more than $104 million, includes paintings, works on paper, and a ceramic piece. The pieces have been on display at the restaurant Picasso inside the Bellagio Resort and Casino for more than 20 years. The collection hits the auction block on October 23rd. Wow, that sounds nice. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good night.